He tries to act unaffected, but the weight of your absence moves through his life like a quiet storm. It shows up in the stillness of the night, in the way his thoughts linger where his pride refuses to go. He won't say it. He may never say, "D," but his spirit aches in places you once held with such gentleness. And now that you're no longer there, everything feels hollow. You were the soft place he never expected, the peace he didn't know how to receive. And instead of meeting you in that light, he built walls, thinking they'd protect him, thinking you'd keep knocking. But you didn't. You paused, you listened, you grew. And while you moved forward, he stood still, waiting for something that no longer waits. He watches from afar, quietly, silently, pretending he's fine. But the way he checks your presence without reaching out, that's not strength, it's fear. He fears that if he speaks now, he'll be met with the woman who no longer needs answers to feel free. And you are free now. Free from the cycle of proving your love to someone unsure of how to hold it. Free from trying to decode silence as if it were love. You've stopped trying to earn what should have been given freely. And in that release, you reclaimed your dignity. He never expected your silence to teach him more than your words. He thought you'd reach again, that your heart would circle back. But this time, the space you created didn't mean distance. It meant direction. And you chose yours. He won't tell anyone about the dreams, about the way your name still catches in his chest, about the memories that replay like songs he never asked to hear. But they come uninvited, like truth does when we've ignored it too long. You were never just someone passing through. You were a mirror, a message, a movement in his life. And now that the echo of you remains without your presence beside it, he realizes he didn't just lose you. He lost the safest place he'd ever been offered. You stopped answering questions he never had the courage to ask. You stopped explaining the way your heart works to someone who never studied it. And in doing so, you found clarity. You found the strength to love yourself the way he never learned to love you. He may tell himself you changed, that you grew distant. But deep down, he knows you simply stopped bending, stopped shrinking, stopped handing out grace to someone who never honored the weight of it. And that truth, it lingers. You were not loud when you left. You were deliberate, quiet, graceful. And that's what haunts him most. Not your words, but your silence. Not your exit, but your peace. Because peace is harder to forget than pain. Now he scrolls, listens, waits, for a sign that maybe your heart is still open. But what he doesn't realize is, your heart didn't close. It evolved. It grew into something more sacred, something no longer accessible to those who only come when it's convenient. He's not ready to admit how deeply he feels you now that you're gone. But every time he sees someone smile like you, move like you, laugh like you, he feels it. The recognition, the regret, the remembering. He'll brush it off, but it stays. You once waited for him to catch up, to wake up, to meet you in the middle. But the truth is, you've already gone beyond that place. You've stopped waiting, because waiting for someone to choose you is no longer part of your healing. He used to be the one you prayed over at night. Now you pray over yourself and your peace. You no longer cry for what could have been. You breathe in what is. You smile at the woman who chose to rise instead of return. You're not angry anymore. You're anchored. You're not cold. You're careful. And that difference is everything, because now you don't withhold love, you guard it. You don't give to be chosen. You give because you are whole. There will be days when his silence tempts you to doubt your worth. Don't. His lack of words does not reflect your value. His inability to hold you was never a verdict on your lovability. It was a mirror of his own unreadiness. Let him wrestle with what he never said. Let him sit in the ache of your absence. You don't need closure from someone who never gave you clarity. You've created your own closure now, with boundaries, with growth, with light. You don't need him to miss you out loud. You don't need the apology he never offered. Because the way you've risen, that's the loudest confirmation of all. That's the closure wrapped in truth. That's the divine reward for choosing yourself. He won't say it, but he knows. Every time your name crosses his thoughts like a breeze he didn't expect, he knows. You were the one he wasn't ready to hold, the one he didn't believe would walk away, the one he thought would always return, until you didn't, and now he's learning what it means to lose something that was once held with two hands and dropped. You didn't leave to teach him a lesson, but your absence will become one, and it's one he'll carry in silence. He tells himself he's fine. That time has dulled the ache, but time doesn't erase what was never fully faced. And what he feels now isn't just memory, it's presence. Your presence, even in absence, remains, because energy like yours doesn't just disappear. It lingers, it teaches, it transforms. Sometimes he hears a laugh that sounds like yours, or catches a glimpse of someone who moves like you. And for a moment, the illusion of peace breaks, because in that second, he's reminded of the comfort he pushed away. Not because he didn't feel it, but because he didn't know how to keep it. He didn't know love could be gentle. He didn't know stability could feel this quiet. He was trained to chase chaos and call it passion. But you were none of that. You were stillness, safety, a place to rest. And now he craves the very peace he once called boring. Your kindness was mistaken for simplicity, your calm for lack of depth. But now, he understands. He sees that what you offered was not basic, it was rare. And what's rare often goes unrecognized until it's no longer within reach. He looks back now, not at the arguments or misunderstandings, but at the ordinary moments. The way you said his name, the way your presence made the room feel softer. The way you never needed to be loud to be unforgettable. That's what haunts him most. You were not a storm, you were a sanctuary. And while he may have been drawn to the drama of lightning, now he misses the way your silence wrapped around his chaos and made it feel like home. A home he didn't know how to live in. He told himself you'd come back. That once the dust settled, you'd reach for him again. But the dust has settled and your footsteps never returned, 'cause the woman you are now doesn't revisit chapters she already closed in grace. He scrolls through pictures he pretends he's forgotten about, plays songs he once told you reminded him of nothing. But now they do. Everything does. Because when something sacred is ignored, the echoes never truly fade. They stay, tucked beneath denial. You were the softness in a world that hardened him. And now he wonders why nothing feels the same. Why no one else touches his soul the way you did. Why laughter feels louder but emptier. It's not because he's cursed. It's because he finally noticed the blessing. He never saw himself as the one who'd carry regret. But here he is, naming his guilt in silence, rewriting memories in his mind, wondering if the next woman will love him the way you did, without needing a blueprint, without conditions, without games. Meanwhile, you're not angry, you're not waiting, you're not bitter. You've simply risen. And that rise has built a distance no apology can erase, no message can close. Because what was lost wasn't just a relationship, it was the timing to honor it. The irony is he had everything he asked for, but lacked the readiness to receive it. He prayed for real love, and when it stood before him, he questioned it. Now he wanders wondering if he'll ever feel that kind of presence again. The kind that doesn't need to be earned, only held. You weren't perfect, but you were present. You didn't fix him, but you offered space to heal. You didn't chase, but you stayed, and in today's world, that's more rare than he ever understood. Until it was gone. Now you've stopped explaining your love. You've stopped waiting for someone to grow into the version they pretended to be. You no longer dress your hope in illusions. You let truth lead even when it hurts. That's what makes you free. That's what makes you powerful. He feels you even now, in his quiet moments, in his anxious thoughts. Not because you're haunting him, but because your energy is unforgettable. When someone truly loves with a full heart, their absence doesn't fade. It marks. He wonders if you've moved on. If someone else holds the space he once ignored. And the answer, maybe. But more importantly, you hold it now. You've learned to become what no one could be for you. And that's more powerful than any replacement. You are not waiting for anyone to come back changed. You are building a life so beautiful that anyone who once doubted you wouldn't recognize your joy if they passed it in the street. And that's how it should be. Quiet transformation, loud freedom. He will carry your name in places he won't admit. Speak of you in circles where your name holds weight. Not because he wants sympathy, but because even he knows there will never be another you. Only echoes, only reminders. And while he hides behind silence, your story keeps blooming. Your heart keeps opening, not for the past, but for what's ahead. Because your love was never the problem. It was the prophecy. And now it's finally being fulfilled in you. He thought silence would keep him safe, but it only gave your absence time to speak. And now your absence says more than your presence ever did. It says you're no longer available for half love, vague promises, or someday maybe energy. It says you've moved from hoping to healing, and that shift is irreversible. He doesn't understand how you stopped reaching, how you stopped trying. But he never saw that your trying was rooted in love, not obligation. And when love is no longer received with honor, it folds itself away. Not out of pride, but out of protection. Sometimes he wonders if you ever truly loved him. But that's because he's only now realizing what love really looks like. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't perform. It stays until it's no longer respected. And then it leaves with quiet strength. You were the safe place he mistook for something too easy. But easy is not the same as effortless. You just made love look effortless because you were willing to hold it with grace. He didn't see the weight you carried behind your kindness. Now the silence carries it for him. He scrolls past your name more often than he admits, pauses at old pictures longer than he should. There's a knot in his chest he can't explain. That knot is the realization that love doesn't always wait. That healing doesn't always return to check if you're ready. You no longer confuse love with attachment. You've learned that being connected doesn't mean staying bound. You've let go, not because you stopped loving, but because you started loving yourself more deeply than his fear allowed you to. He's surrounded by noise, but none of it sounds like you. No one else listens like you. No one else breathes peace into chaos like you did. And now, in the spaces where your voice used to echo, there's only memory, and the realization that some souls were sent, not to stay, but to awaken. You don't carry resentment. You carry remembrance, not to relive the pain, but to honor the growth, to remind yourself that survival became strength and heartbreak became wisdom. You are not broken. You are deeply rebuilt. He thought he had time, but time isn't what heals absence, presence does, and you've redirected your presence now toward things that grow, toward people who show up, toward a life that doesn't ask you to question your worth to feel seen. You once would have answered if he called. Now, you think twice before replying to your own memories. Not because they hurt, but because they no longer hold power. What once broke you now blesses you by showing you who you'll never be again. Your silence didn't start as a boundary. It started as a whisper, a knowing, a pull. And as days passed, it turned into a fortress not of walls but of worth. You don't have to defend your absence. It speaks clearly for itself. I no longer abandon myself to be loved. He sees glimpses of you in his quiet moments, usually when the world stops just long enough for truth to surface. That truth whispers what he never said, that you were the real thing, that you were the one, that now it's too late to say it out loud. You're not waiting for his awakening. You're not holding space for potential. You've learned that your future cannot be built on the promise of maybe. It deserves the presence of now, and you're already there, fully, completely, unshakably. He underestimated the way you'd rebuild, the way you'd glow, the way you'd speak life into yourself after being silenced. And now, watching you rise without bitterness is what humbles him most. Because grace, when given and withdrawn, teaches louder than anger ever could. You are no longer looking for answers from someone who couldn't hold your truth. You've become your own answer. You've stopped looking outward for a reflection. Because the woman you are now doesn't need validation. She walks in confirmation. He might say you were distant, but you were never distant. You were deep. And depth scares those who've only swam in shallow waters. You weren't hard to love. You were just too real for someone still loving from fear. There was a time when your love was a lighthouse. Now it's a flame held close, shared only with those who protect it. That doesn't mean you've hardened. It means you've refined. You still love deeply. You just no longer hand your fire to those who play with it. He may tell himself stories about who you were. Let him. The truth isn't yours to force, it's his to discover. And by the time he uncovers it, you'll be chapters ahead, living in a story written by healing, not hoping. And in that story, you are not the one left behind. You are the one who walked forward. And every step you've taken since leaving was a step toward becoming the woman he couldn't hold. Becoming the future that no longer includes who didn't fight to stay. Thank you for opening your heart to this message. You didn't find these words by accident. Heaven speaks when your soul is ready to receive. And if something in your spirit stirred, it means this message was always meant for you. Now take a moment to anchor what you've received by commenting, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me." Let that be your confirmation, your agreement with the healing, and your declaration of alignment. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. This is how you stay connected to the next message heaven sends to you. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. The angels are still speaking, and your next message is already on its way. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, protect your peace, walk in your worth, and stay open to the whispers of the divine.